Hello, everybody. It's Kelly and Jim from the X-Files Preservation Collection, and we are talking with Gideon Hay, prop maker and special effects artist who worked on the X-Files. Hello, Gideon. How are you today?
Hi there. How are you?
How are you? We're excited to be talking to you.
Absolutely.
So,
Fantastic.
just to get us started, do you want to just tell everybody a little bit about what you do? A little more.
I tend to do a lot of lab work, make a lot of prosthetics, dead bodies, not real dead bodies, of course, silicone things, rubber things, make a lot of props, make a lot of dentures, monster stuff. I tend to really love monster stuff. Always have, since being a kid.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So how did you, you just said you've been into it ever since you were a kid. How did you decide that this is what you were going to do for your living?
I got this National Geographic World magazine, and they showed how latex masks were made. And I was fascinated. It was around the time that Star Wars came out.
Mm-hmm.
So they showed how the Cantina band, how they made their heads,
Yeah.
So this really put a bug in my head, to learn how to make this stuff. And it was years later that I actually made my first latex mask. However, that was what I wanted to do from there on in. The Planet of the Apes movies also kind of bolstered that fascination with makeup and creatures and all that kind of stuff. I was a real Planet of the Apes fanatic.
Awesome.
And Ray Harryhausen stuff too. Are you familiar with?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, definitely.
Definitely.
Sometimes I'll ask the kids these days, and I actually met Ray Harryhausen.
Wow. Lucky you.
Yeah, I feel I met him, and I met Phil Tippett too. Two of my, just heroes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Phil Tippett. Yeah. Speaking of Phil Tippett, he's got a brand new an animation movie coming out.
Is it the Mad God thing or
yes. Yeah, it's like I think it's like the Mad Dog, something like that. I saw some trailers for it.
It's just incredible.
It is very dark,
subterranean giant rats and all kinds of neat stuff. Yeah, for sure. He was a really nice guy. You could tell he was kind of a curmudgeon and would not suffer a lot of dumb questions or anything. So I kept it kind of light, but I was fanning out. I've got to say, I was the fanboy, was just, I was bursting at the seams,
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. RoboCop and all those movies that he did the stop motion on, really amazing. But X-Files is the thing, right? Sorry, I can get sidetracked really easily,
It's all good.
Yeah.
So what was your first actual job in the industry? Where you got paid?
I think I made some seaweed and these weird sort of creature of the Black Lagoon little monster things for a neighbor that worked at UBC, the local university. And he studied kelp or seaweed or something. So I made this display for him for an open house. And that was the first thing that I ever got paid for.
Wow.
So it was a sculpture of monsters,
Perfect.
Basically, it was, it predicted the future
I'm
for me.
sure
Yeah.
definitely did.
Yeah.
And so eventually you got involved with the X-Files. Do you remember how you first got involved?
I was really good friends with Toby Lindella, who did the original first few seasons of X-Files here in Vancouver. And then it moved to LA. But before that, when it was here, I think he got in on the first season and the second season. And then I came in on the third season to work on the episode Grotesques, which is all gargoyles. And the weird thing about it is that I had made another gargoyle for a friend and got called on that job making a gargoyle and was told to go make these gargoyles on the X-Files. So I thought, wow, this is weird. You know, my
Right.
career's opening up with gargoyles, you know, it's fantastic. So yeah, this friend of mine had won the lottery and got me to make these 2 gargoyles for outside his house. And then I went directly from that to the X-Files, and they showed a lot of my stuff. It was really quite amazing, that that particular episode, you know, and got to work directly with Toby a lot and learned a whole heck of a lot of things, you know.
Yeah. That episode was it was dark. It's a very underrated episode in my book.
It's one of my favorites, really. That whole scene with with all the drawings and stuff in his lair, you know, the killer's lair, and where he's at the art class and he's, you know, sharpening his pencil, he cuts his finger, and it's very spooky, and it has that weird sort of kind of homoerotic kind of nature to it too.
Right.
It's all young men that are being killed, which was kind of a different take on, you know, the usual victims in horror movies, you know, or horror shows, you know.
Right. We do at the X-File Preservation Collection, we do have a bunch of those drawings.
And one of the gargoyles.
Oh, nice.
And one of the gargoyle heads.
I may have a gargoyle head that ended up in the garbage around here somewhere, but I just don't know where it is. And my place is, you know, you see a little corner of it here, and I've got it blanketed off because it's crazy in here.
Yeah, we understand.
Yeah, we understand crazy. Trust us.
Crazy too.
Trust us. We do.
Until we finally decided to make it an official museum, and
right.
You know, we can clean out our house a little.
Yeah, it's nice to have your house back, eh?
Oh yeah, I'm working on getting it back. You know, it was a lot of work getting that set up. So
I sometimes call this Gideon's Museum of Unfinished Projects, you know, because it kind of is that, you know. So I was going to mention this one thing about that episode, Grotesques. We were talking about this earlier.
Yeah.
One of the dead bodies that is placed in the gargoyles is actually from Gillian Anderson's cast with a mustache applied to it. We just thought last minute, like, we had the mold for her face, and so she kind of looks like this effeminate looking man, and it's perfect, you know. So eagle-eyed observers could probably maybe pick her out.
Now we all have to rewatch and find Gillian.
Yeah. So it's the one with it's a really light colored mustache, and it's after Mulder has gone in and kind of torn the gargoyle faces off.
Okay.
And they're all sort of in there, and one of them's Gillian Anderson. So
that's so amazing.
Kind of funny.
I would have never realized that.
Right.
It's crazy. We watched that episode. Never.
Yeah, and it's I don't think Gillian Anderson even knows. But she will now.
She will. Yes, she will. Nice.
Right.
Hopefully she won't be mad, you know.
You know. Yeah. She's got a good sense of humor, I think. She seems to have a good sense of humor. You know, it'd be good.
Right.
So after that episode, you worked on a few more in the early seasons, didn't you?
Yeah, I worked on one that was like sort of a Loch Ness Monster one.
Was it Quagmire?
I think so.
Big Blue?
There's a scene at the end where there's like a shadow of the Loch Ness Monster creature.
Yeah.
And then it turns out to be a duck.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Quagmire.
You know the episode
Yes, it's
I worked
Quagmire.
on that one. Then I worked on I acted in one and sculpted, which is kind of weird. I acted in one called Kaddish, which I believe is in the 4th season. It's either the 3rd or 4th.
I'm positive, but yeah. Do you remember what season?
Off the top of my head, no.
Because you're on the spot.
Yeah, it all runs together sometimes.
I'm basically at a grave site, and I'm making a golem over my husband's grave because I play a female in this scene, and they pick me because I'm a sculptor and I have small hands. So, you know, one of those situations. And I don't think they look like female hands though.
No.
Kind of rough, but you know. But you
Maybe
don't
you
really
have
see it that
life.
much. But this golem that I was making was made of axle grease and vermiculite, because you couldn't use real mud over top of this dummy that had a air balloon in it. So basically what happens is I'm building this figure, and then the camera kind of goes over it, and we realize that it's breathing. It's got this, you know, its chest is kind of heaving as I kind of stumble away from the scene, you know. But it was my sort of acting debut, and it was fun.
All right.
A lot of fun. Yeah.
His acting debut.
What would you rather? I mean, if you had a choice, act or what you do now?
If I had to pick one, it would probably be sculpts and make things, you know. Though it is fun, like hamming it up, and especially in monster suits, or you know, with your face hidden, because you can kind of be anonymous and, you know,
Right.
kind of get over any sort of performance anxiety. Like you're the zombie that's getting shot at, you know. So it's a lot of fun really to do that stuff, but I would probably choose the sculpture overall, you know.
Right.
Yeah, because I love making stuff. I always have, you know.
And we know you're really gifted at it.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I keep working at it, you know. I'm always trying to get better, you know. There's always somebody that's that, you know, you should admire and try to emulate, you know.
Right.
At any stage.
Definitely. You can always get better.
Right.
And then you obviously you worked in the later seasons, and my husband's favorites, Familiar. Do you want to tell the people about working on Familiar?
Mr. Chuckleteeth.
Mr. Chuckleteeth. I helped design Mr. Chuckleteeth with the great late Bill Terzakis, one of my great friends. He had some rough ideas, but it was really kind of like just sculpt these crazy, rough, weird, kind of clowny faces. And then he took them and did his Photoshop brilliance to them and created Mr. Chuckleteeth using Bob's Big Boy's hair.
Yeah.
Is it called Bob's Big Boy? Or
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, that. So hence the familiar hairline, you know, with a cool little hair horn.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, so he kind of distilled a bunch of different sculptures that we had made in Photoshop and took, you know, the eyes from one, the teeth from another, and kind of stitched this thing together. And then I sculpted the actual one and the little doll too. So I did work with a couple other artists in the shop. Bruce Houston did his beautiful shining up the sculpture afterwards, and some people molded it and painted it too. Some other talented folks.
In Mr. Chuckleteeth, the mask itself, there's two versions, is there? It looks like there's a clean version, and it looks like there's like a dirty version. You know, one, I mean, his face is all, you know, nice and clean. And then there's another version. It looks like he's got like stuff coming out of his nose and stuff like that, you know? I mean, is that?
I think 3 of them were made. 3 of the dolls and 3 of the heads, I'm pretty sure. I seem to remember seeing like 3 of them sitting there before they were painted. They did all kinds of like auto body work on those, because, you know, you can get clay quite smooth, but usually you end up needing to sand things and stuff, right? So we would use glazing putty and all that kind of stuff and sand them to perfection. But yeah, they probably had one that was made to look all messed up, and I guess that's the one that actually gets the kids and chases after people. And
yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that's the one that gets the kids.
Yeah, he's I guess the clean version would be the TV show one.
Yes. But a lot of but a lot of credit, I mean to interrupt you, but a lot of credit should go out to besides you, it's Benjamin Van Allen. The script was just amazing.
I've never actually read the script for that. I mean, usually when you're making these things, where you're given your little this thing eats this thing, and you know, or whatever the action is, but it's usually very specific, and you don't get to know that much of the script, you know. So I didn't actually know until I actually saw the show, you know, kind of what was going on with him. I knew he was like a kids show kind of performer.
Gone bad.
And that my friend Keith was going to wear the costume, you know?
Yeah.
So
They just say like, this is going to be a kids show performer that steals kids, and then you have to make magic.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they would ever make a kids show mask that looked that scary. You know, I mean, it's quite alarming, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's scarier than Chucky.
Definitely. I'm not afraid of Chucky at all.
Yeah, Chucky's nothing.
But Chuckle Teeth, he gives me the
my daughters are adults and they're still afraid of Chucky. So, you know, so Mr. Chuckle Teeth might be too much, you know, for many people.
Yeah.
So we have to talk about the evil Teletubbies. Whose idea were they?
Well, they were definitely in the script, you know, the sort of henchmen, the sort of things. But they were designed in a very similar way. We made all kinds of sort of weird little kind of infantile looking skull faces and like different things. And then Bill kind of chose various elements of these rough sculptures that we made. Like we'd make 4 in an afternoon, just very, very quickly throw these things together. Then he would take pictures of them, put them in Photoshop and sort of mix and match the various elements. And that's how they were created. A great way to create things, by the way.
You did a great job because they were creepy.
I loved them.
And it was actually creepy because my son watched the Teletubbies when he was little, you know? So I'm like, whoa, this is creepy, which I like.
Somebody the other day pointed out that, you know, the son in the Teletubbies, she's a adult woman and very, very attractive lady actually now.
All right.
So she's like a model or something, you know.
Wow.
All right.
That dates our age.
Yeah, let's see.
Yes, I know. I feel ancient.
Yeah, definitely. And you also worked on Ghoulie, right?
Yes, and Ghoulie is kind of based on a goblin shark. Are you guys aware of that? There's a creature out there in the deep oceans that is this really nasty looking shark, and it's called a goblin shark. So I was looking at pictures of that, and Bill had, you know, photoshopped this horrible creature together. I mean, horrible in a good way. And then we also had this thing with building the hands, so they had like weird little windows in them. Often you'll have like a design element that sort of floats around for a while, and then eventually you end up getting to use it for something. And I remember the Ghoulie creature, we actually had like these little holes in the fingers and the claws you could see light through, and that was a thing that I saw show up in a couple designs, but we never got to do until then, you know.
That's cool.
Right.
I could see the shark, and I just never really, you know, I didn't know that was a thing, so I never put it together.
Well, the weird nose, you know, the way it sort of comes off the face. Yeah, it's based on this goblin shark.
Wow.
Yeah. We had a great engineer who figured out the jaw mechanism. So the teeth would kind of pop forward. And his name is Jim Gawley. Actually, you know, you should interview Jim Gawley. He's a really cool guy. Worked on like the X-Men movies, made all the claws for Wolverine and all that kind of stuff. So
Wow.
yeah. I'll try to put you together with him.
That would be awesome.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. You know.
Yeah. So he sorry to interrupt, but he was Bill's main guy for doing animatronics and that kind of stuff. And he's been in the industry for years and years. So really an amazing person. Yeah.
What was the animatronics?
Yeah, because like
Really complicated,
right,
unruly. So
like I say, we have the the shark head and all that.
and some of that like parts to like there's a battery pack and stuff, but us knowing exactly how to put it together.
Yeah,
That's a treat.
Keith was kind of describing this goes here, that goes here, and I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, yeah.
Will you come back? And
Yeah.
put this together?
And yeah, I'm like, I have no clue what the hell you just friggin' said,
And we would all kind of work together. So there would be Jim, there'd be Keith, a lot of us sort of cooks, so to speak, so I had to change the area around the mouth a few times just to allow for the mechanism, so the mouth could open properly and all that sort of stuff. So that's the thing with when art has to come to life and move around, there's often engineering consequences, that
Yeah, definitely.
you have to get that stuff right so the skin can kind of clear the mouth or be thick enough or thin enough to actually move.
Right.
It's can be quite tricky sometimes.
A lot to think about.
Yeah, I mean, just the level of detail and everything you guys put into it for
It's
it being,
amazing.
it could be on the screen for 5 seconds. It's just,
It's like amazing.
we tip our hats to you.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, thanks very much. I would tip my hat, but it's a bandana. So
Yeah. So realistic. Everything is so realistic. Like, and
I just love making this stuff, personally. And the first X-Files thing, coming back for the new X-Files was the Were Lizard episode,
one of our favorites.
which was so fun to work on, and it was the first time in a long time that I'd worked with Bill, because I had worked with Bill like back in the day, like the early 2000s, but it had been quite a while, and got kind of reintroduced to him at a makeup convention. I was curating the convention and for Makeup Artist magazine, and Bill displayed for that thing, and he called me soon afterwards and said, "Do you want to work on the X-Files?" And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely," So I got to work with Gillian Anderson's daughter, Piper.
Awesome.
We both kind of sculpted the original sculpture for the Lizard Man, and then I got to work a little bit with the actor who plays the Lizard Man as he's changing, Reese. What's his name?
Bryce Darby, I think.
Yeah,
Bryce Darby. Yeah.
Yeah, super nice guy, and I just seen What We Do in the Shadows, which he is in the original movie, and I just love that movie. So I walk by him and I'm like, werewolves, not swearwolves, and he's like, you saw it, he kind of lit up, because he had to get his face cast, so he was I think he was a little bit miserable, because it's not the funnest thing,
Yeah, it doesn't sound
Right.
and he kind of lit up when we talked about What We Do in the Shadows. So it was kind of nice to have a chat with him.
that's
Great.
awesome.
Yeah.
I like to say, in that episode, he got further with Scully than Mulder did. So, I mean,
That's true.
so
And I don't know if you guys realize this. You probably did, because you're super fans of X-Files, but he actually ends up dressing like Carl Kolchak.
absolutely.
Yes,
That's my favorite piece of wardrobe that we have is his screen used Kolchak wardrobe. I call it the Kolchak wardrobe.
Yeah, I mean, I loved, the whole Night Stalker thing.
Yep.
I was a little kid, and it just scared the dickens out of me. But yeah, so I mean, X-Files being the sort of the inheritor of that spookiness, it's been a real pleasure being sort of attached to various episodes of X-Files. It's been quite amazing.
Yeah.
I'm a very lucky guy.
Would you describe yourself as a fan? Did you watch the show? Would you call yourself a fan of the show?
I was, yeah, I was. Obviously, I would, run to watch the episodes that I worked on, but I definitely was. I like the whole undercurrent of aliens and the black goo and like all that stuff.
Mythology?
Mythology.
Yeah, like the fascinating undertow, of
Now, I
the
was going
smoking
to say
man.
you were a Monster of the Week guy, and now you're telling me you're a mythology guy.
Well, that too. I'm really into ancient mythology, so the mythology of X-Files and all that kind of stuff touches on a lot of those things. Like, remember the episode with the Chupacabra, that whole thing. That was the first time I'd ever heard of that before, Now it's out there in the lexicon,
Yeah.
Definitely. It's amazing the stuff they covered in the X-Files. Right?
Yeah.
The one episode, I kind of wish I'd worked on it, but the one with the creepy inbred people that have their mother under the bed and stuff,
Yeah.
like, oh my God, like who
Yeah.
writes this stuff? It was crazy.
Yeah, who thinks of these things, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, when we opened up the museum, and the fans would talk, they would ask us about stuff, and and they even said, who the hell writes all this stuff? I said, some sick, deranged people.
But that one was definitely creepy, but I still say, like, there's one in the newer seasons called Nothing Lasts Forever,
Season 11.
where they're eating body parts, and like the doctor sewing his back to a living human being, connecting their spine.
Oh, boy.
I'm like, well, that blows home out of the water by my book, because you're seeing it all. Like home, you didn't see any of the grossness.
Well, I think the with home was, but I mean, besides
People knew.
Peacock underneath the bed, I think it was the deformed inbreeding, and just it planted the seed in their head, like,
Yeah,
oh, this is wrong.
psychological.
Yeah, I think that's why it was like so gross.
I liked it. I like the way it had a certain sense of humor too. There was that reference to Babe, Bahram you.
Yeah.
And I tended to like the more humorous episodes, where we find out that Mulder has like a giant porn collection or whatever, like all of that kind of funny stuff, Trying to think about the one that I really liked was where they're Mulder's eating pie, and he goes, bleh! Like he makes this weird noise, and it's like an alien abduction one, and people are sort of relaying the story of seeing Mulder, and the way he acts in their retelling of the story or whatever. It's like he's an alien, What episode is that though?
I kind of.
Where he's eating pie.
Yes.
Where he's eating pie. Is it kind of like filmed like black and white?
I think so, in like Twin Peaks.
It's the postmodern Prometheus. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's it's that episode.
Okay.
And it's got that weird creature
The
that
two-headed.
It's kind of a throwback to Frankenstein days.
Yeah, it's been such a long time, and I only saw that one once.
Yeah.
But I remember just laughing quite a bit at just Mulder acting sort of out of character and acting quite weird,
Yeah.
So I liked it when the more humorous things happened. I mean, sometimes was it serious, like Scully would be, having a nosebleed or something, and it's like, is she gonna die? And it's serious, and kind of looking off in the distance, and so I tended to like the more funny ones,
Right. Bad Blood, the vampire one.
Yes, I mean there was some really good ones, fantastic. I think they had more money in the later ones. We also had all kind of grown up as artists too. People lucky enough to have worked on the early ones and the new ones. So we're using a lot more silicone and many new kinds of technologies compared to the old ones where we'd be using like foam rubber and even urethanes and stuff that we would never use now, you know.
Yeah.
Very toxic-y
You
things,
can see
actually.
the difference in the props,
Yes, absolutely.
like the ones we have from the early seasons.
Yes,
And
you
they
know.
are hard to preserve too.
Oh, very,
Very
you
hard
know.
to
Oh,
preserve.
foam just rots away, you know. The best thing to do with those is to put them in a sealed container, and you know, if you can, and not let oxygen get to them, because they just oxidize, really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You
Poor
know.
little Ray Soames.
Oh, yeah, we
Oh yeah,
have,
there's
we have,
A Million Corpse from the pilot
from the
episode.
pilot where the casket roll, when they exhume the casket, it rolls down the hill, rolls down, and then Mulder opens it up. It's that mammalian corpse. Chris Carter,
Right.
he said after they filmed the episode, they basically chucked everything, and he went dumpster diving
And
to pull it out.
Now we
It's
have
weird.
it, but it needs some love.
Same thing with the like all the gargoyles and stuff. I mean, many of them ended up in the dumpster, you know.
So sad.
It's really sad.
Yeah, don't,
You
yeah.
know, I think what it is that when you're working on something, you don't realize what sort of impact it's going to have 20 years later, 30 years later, you know. And some things do and some things don't. Some things kind of stick around and some things are forgotten, you know. So it's X-Files really has staying power, whereas some other things that I've worked on, I mean, people are not interviewing me, you know, about my involvement with them, because they just don't have the staying power, you know.
Right.
And you guys, it's weird because like you like you just said, you have no idea. You have no idea when you're doing it. You know,
course not,
you
you know.
just a job, and then the next day you're on to the next thing, and then.
And actually, with that episode Grotesques, that was the first episode of anything where I had actually gone on set and all that kind of stuff. It was many firsts. We were young. We were like I was like maybe 27 or something like that. You know, Toby was like maybe 22.
Wow.
Crazy.
Like he was in charge of all these workers, and you know, it truly was crazy.
Yeah.
And we kind of partied it up a little bit,
Yeah.
a lot at 10 o'clock in the morning, you know.
Crazy hours you guys
Back in
are.
those days, I mean, like we certainly can't get away with that now, you know. But
Right.
back in the day, it was like skateboards going around the shop and like crazy, you know.
You hear a lot when we interview people about how tight knit that Vancouver crew, you know, all the different people
Oh,
from behind the scenes, how tight knit you guys all were. You hear a lot about that when we interview people.
We all still know each other, you know, after all these years, you know, and there was a limited amount of effects, makeup effect shops, so you'd see the same familiar faces over and over again, you know, on
Yeah.
every job pretty much, you know. So yeah, it's feeling all nostalgic here,
Yeah.
just
Okay.
thinking about all the people, you know, that I've worked with, and X-Files and Millennium were you know, two of those ones that I really miss a lot of the people, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of us are still alive too.
Yeah. That's, you know, who knows? Maybe we'll have some more X-Files and you can all get back together again.
Yeah,
I'm into that.
I want to. I'm into it. With X-Files back in the 90s, I guess, or maybe early 2000s, when I worked for a company called Mainframe, and they had a show called Reboot, and they did an X-Files episode, because one of the directors at Mainframe, Mr. Clyde Klotz, was married to Gillian Anderson. So I remember he used to take Piper around for open houses, and my weird little sculpture room was sort of a target for everybody, because it was the one place where there were tangible things like actual sculptures and things, right? So I met Piper Anderson when she was like 5 years old or something, and then later got to work with her.
Awesome.
But it's kind of interesting that you know, my X-Files involvement sort of continued, even though I moved on to this other company, you know.
that's
Um,
awesome.
Yeah.
we did an X-Files show, and then I think they might have done like yet another X-Files show somewhere else, like Robot Chicken did, or something.
A lot
Maybe
of
not
places
Robot
kind
Chicken.
of did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like even The
but, you know,
Simpsons did a X-Files type episode.
maybe it was The Simpsons.
Yeah.
I know that Gillian Anderson voiced the character in the mainframe one, the reboot, but I don't think David Duchovny did.
Oh,
I think they had another actor, but he might have done it in The Simpsons.
I think he did
in
it.
The
I
Simpsons,
think they
yeah.
did it in The Simpsons. Yeah.
Yeah, but a more well-known show, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
overall.
definitely.
But yeah,
They've done a
so,
lot
yeah.
though. You know?
It's all been really fun for me, you know, like just this vicarious, backroom involvement in X-Files, you know, being the lab kind of guy, you know.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to be back there just to see how, because I'm really into seeing how you guys make the things happen or create the different, you know.
A lot of it's really dusty and stinky, you know. A lot of fiberglassing and airbrush painting, all that sort of stuff. So it's not glamorous, but it is fascinating.
Definitely.
You know? That's why they don't have us on the red carpet and stuff, you know, because we're all covered in latex, you know.
Right. But you're doing the hard work that makes
Right.
the show worth
Yeah.
watching, you know?
Or some of it anyways. I mean, the acting's probably pretty darn hard.
Oh,
But,
yeah, definitely. But
it would be nice if they gave us the trailers, you know, like
Yeah.
the awesome trailers, and you know,
yeah, nice.
with a booze fridge and stuff too, you know.
There you go. You could go take a lunch break in your trailer, you know.
Yeah.
And
I'd
hit the
probably be
fridge.
doing that too much. I'd be having secondsies and 11sies and stuff, you know, knowing me, you know.
Yeah, right. But just remember, if it weren't for you guys, Mulder and Scully wouldn't have anything to hunt or investigate.
Oh, that's definitely true.
You
That's
know,
very true.
It would be a pretty boring show.
I love making monsters, and I'm happy to make monsters for those guys to chase after, you know.
There you go. They need something to chase.
Yeah.
And you know, suits for Keith to wear.
That's right.
Right?
Keith was amazing. Yes.
Yeah.
And even without that damn mask, he can creep me out just the way he moves his head. I'm telling you.
Oh yeah, I mean he's got the body movement down, you know. I would put him on par with like somebody like Doug Jones, you know, who did all the stuff for like Hellboy and all that.
Yeah,
Keith can do it all, you know.
I believe it.
Keith is our Vancouver Doug Jones, you know.
There you go. Vancouver Doug Jones.
Yeah, it was an honor to have him at
Definitely.
the grand opening. It was.
So did he actually phically come there, or?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
he physically can.
Yep, he spent the day with us, met the fans, and then we had a VIP dinner thing that he came to. We had
Where
dinner.
are you guys located?
Upstate New York.
We're in Saratoga
Oh.
Springs, New York.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
I used
famous
to
for horse racing and ballet, and now the X-Files.
Yeah, hopefully you'll be drawing in lots of X-Files fans, you know.
That's the goal.
They should be very happy with you in that town, you know. Is it a big place, or?
It's like a small city.
It's
Very
a small city.
tourist-based. So
Yeah,
yeah.
you know, the people found out that we were opening, and the people are still finding out.
Right.
And, you know, they were like, holy shit, you know, we got to go.
Right. We had people from Ecuador come to the grand opening, and
Oh,
people
wow.
England, right?
Yeah.
Luxembourg. So
Crazy.
yeah. Well, you know, our grand opening, but also Chris Carter was there, so you know.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding
He
myself.
definitely has some draw, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Never got to meet him.
it was an honor to have him.
Definitely. To be able to share the collection with him and, you know, shake
I'm
his hand.
sure. I'm sure he's like a like an amazing guy to interview and talk to, because that mind of his, coming up with this, it's
Yeah.
truly amazing,
Definitely. And very
Yeah.
kind and generous with his time.
Yep.
He took his time with every fan. He was amazing to meet.
Another one of the writers that really has gone on to be amazing is guy does like Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Michael Gillian, I think that's what his name is. I think
Vince.
Gilligan.
Vince Gilligan.
Vince Gilligan. I know a guy named Michael Gilligan. that's what it is. But yeah, Vince Gilligan. Yeah, because I guess he must have been in Vancouver writing, stuff for X-Files, and
Right.
and like I think he wrote that episode with the guy that plays Walter White.
Bryan Cranston.
Bryan Cranston, and that's when he met him, actually.
Yeah, and the episode, there was the episode Drive.
See,
Yeah.
all because of X-Files. We
Yeah.
wouldn't have Breaking Bad without it.
Exactly. So that's where they met, and I think he wrote a few of the really top episodes too.
He did.
Definitely.
He did.
Yeah.
Well, the X-Files was kind of open a door gateway for
A lot of
a
people.
lot of actors now. I mean,
Right.
was it the first couple seasons? I mean, you had Jack Black.
Yep.
Really, he was in it too.
Jack Black was in it.
Giovanni.
Giovanni Ribisi was in it.
It's my favorite episode to see.
Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
Really? Well, he's a Vancouver guy.
Yep.
Ryan
So,
Reynolds. I mean, you've had so many people,
Right.
and when you go all the way back and watch them in those
And
episodes,
then you're
and then you see them now, it's like
Seth Green, right?
Seth Green. Yep.
Yeah.
So many people.
Yeah.
Now when you watch, now they're big stars. You watch, you go, holy crap, that's,
Yeah.
so and so.
And they look so young too. It's
Yeah.
that's the other thing,
Especially Ryan Reynolds.
The baby version.
Wow.
He must have been like 19 or 20 or something,
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, he was a youngin.
Yeah. It didn't end well for him.
No, it didn't end well.
I'm just trying to remember that episode. It's been a long time for some of the 90s episodes.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that episode he was in, it's one of those episodes that's got the weird name.
Something like that. I can't pronounce it, but it's like Siggy or something like
Yeah,
that.
it's got the two girls,
Okay.
two high school girls that
Date them, wouldn't want to date them. Those girls.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, they lure Ryan's character
up a mountain,
and
and they hang him.
they hang him. They push him
Oh,
off.
jeez.
Yeah.
Not nice. Not a nice thing to do to Ryan Reynolds,
No.
Yeah.
Not, and what he thought he was going to get definitely wasn't hung.
Yeah.
No, definitely not. He thought he was getting something much
It was
nicer
false
than that.
advertisement.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Not fair. Not
Right.
fair.
Poor Ryan. I feel bad for him.
I mean, you go all the way. You go all the way back to some of the earlier episodes. I mean, were you shocked that the show exploded the way it did in popularity?
Oh, absolutely. It also seemed like it all happened very fast. Like we would work on an episode and it was on TV within like 2 weeks. Now, I don't know if it's the same now. It seems like there's more of a lag of like doing digital effects and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
There wasn't as much of that then,
Right.
So it just seemed like we'd work on it, bam, we'd see it, really amazing then, and also the shops were so crazy. It was like, we were a bunch of 20-year-olds, just being maniacs,
Trying to be fun.
and staying up for days and days and days and days and days,
Yeah.
It was a very crazy time for sure.
Definitely.
But yeah, to see what it's become, that's definitely a surprise to me. I would have thought it would have sort of petered out at a certain point, but people still talk about the X-Files.
Definitely.
And I'm with you on the idea of wouldn't it be great to sort of to remake some or not to remake, not to Hollywood remake, but to make new episodes.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a way to do it. I keep it.
What if they did like a cartoon version of X-Files or like a computer generated version? I mean, maybe it's a wacky idea, but
They actually had that in development.
Yep.
And Chris Carter pulled the plug, like it was a go, and he pulled the plug because he didn't think it was representing the X-Files the way he wanted it to.
well, maybe it just wasn't very good, what they had done or something, or just wasn't up to par or something, must have been something like that,
Yeah. He didn't tell us exactly why, but he did tell us that he made the decision. He pulled the plug. So
because people definitely would eat it up,
for sure, fandom is crazy. It's not.
But then again, it's like Star Wars, a few bad episodes, a few bad movies, and people are like, Star Wars, But then the Mandalorian comes along and sort of grabs it again, So it's very possible that something could sink or float,
Right.
Well, we haven't given up hope that there'll be something more, but we'll see. Time will
Someday.
tell. But we can't wait too long. I mean, if we're gonna use Mulder and Scully, we can't wait forever. They're human. They're gonna age.
I don't know when FBI agents would retire. So when it would be an appropriate age to say, well, no, they can't. But I mean, even if they were retired, some weird case could kind of bring the weird investigators back. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, there were some episodes where they visited Arthur Dales, the first guy that discovered the X-Files, the FBI agent.
Yeah, Arthur Dales, and the character, the man that played the actor that played Arthur Dales was Darren McGavin.
Right, of course. Yeah, that's right. Darren McGavin actually was in maybe more than one episode.
Yep, he was in that one, and he was in another episode called Aguamala. It was about the hurricane in Florida, and then there was a creature with tentacles, a sea monster. Yeah, he was retired down in Florida. And
he called Mulder
and said, "Come down here because my neighbors they're missing." And he was just this grouchy old son of a bitch, and he brought Scully, and he turns around and he goes, "Why did you bring her?" Yeah, he's
But at the end of it, he said, "Admit it, Mulder. Without her, I can't remember the exact word.
Yeah.
Basically, she saved your butt."
Well, Mulder gets a little out there, I think, and Scully brings him back to
That's
earth.
right.
I'm just a fan. I'm a fan. I'm just a fan of the stories, and whatever the writers come up with. That's what I love the most.
You guys are making me want to go back and rewatch a bunch of them because it has been quite a while, and the thing when you're working on movies and shows is oftentimes they come out like months and months after you worked on them, so sometimes you don't even see them, like a lot of things that you work on, and people are like, "Oh my god, I just saw that," and it's like, well, how was it, because I haven't seen it.
Right.
And it's often like that, but I have seen all the stuff that I worked on for X-Files. I regret the fact that I didn't work on the Wendigo one because I was called, but I was working on something else. I think I was working on Christmas Chronicles, making little elves.
Oh, well, elves are important for Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, I make cute stuff too, but mostly not. But I mean, it's equally challenging to make a cute puppy look realistic as a velociraptor or whatever, an alien.
Right.
It's all very challenging. To make a realistic baby, for instance, very, very hard task.
Right.
Yeah, the realistic baby. Yeah, we know. We have the season 10 when the reboot
Maybe you worked on. I don't know.
reboot came out in 2016.
Mhm.
It wasn't Bill Terazaka's piece.
Yeah, it was Bill Peace.
It was the character.
Sveta.
She like a birthing scene, and
It's a 7-month-old.
we got
fetus.
we got the mold, and then we got the 7-month-old, and then we've got the
sculpt.
final.
We got the sculpt, the mold, and then the final version.
Right.
And it's
amazing.
so realistic. It's scary. Like, I was a little worried that, like, displaying it, like, you know, women that maybe had,
I wasn't worried.
you know, miscarriages or whatever would be a problem.
I mean,
my wife and I had a bit of a tragedy between our two daughters. So I have to admit that I picked up probably that very baby, fake baby, and kind of had like a weird feeling because, you know, I picked up a real dead baby, you know, and it's quite disturbing, you know. And I had sort of cordoned that part of my mind off. I hadn't really thought about it until I picked that up, and it had like a realistic weight.
It was the hair, the weight, and just the way it. I mean,
it felt real to me.
Yeah.
And
I remember I got kind of a little weird with it.
Yeah.
You know, like it was a bit disturbing. You know, whereas usually stuff like that does not disturb me at all. You know. Real stuff does generally, like you know, seeing like a medical book where you see like people injured or something, that always grosses me out a million times more than like even a very realistic gory scene in a movie, because I know it's fake.
Right.
You know?
And you know how it was done, and
exactly
got all that background knowledge.
Right.
Yeah, so
some of that stuff, that baby
was only on the screen for like a second. Like, it was just she was having like a flashback.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, that is so realistic. It's crazy.
Yep.
And you guys built it to laugh.
I'm trying to remember which there was an alien show that Bill was working on, and I've never actually seen any episodes of it, but I ended up making a baby alien for it, and probably was looking at your X-Files baby as reference. And that's why I was actually picking up the very realistic baby, you know.
Yeah. Was it recent? Was it like Resident Alien, or?
It was Resident Alien.
That's what I was.
Yeah.
So on that show I worked on all kinds of like little arms that kind of come out of the alien, you know, when he's full size, and worked with Bill on the faces of, you know, all the different phases, you know, for the alien. So we made a lot of aliens outside of X-Files too, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
There's certain themes that people keep coming back to, and you know, the alien grays tend to be one of those, you know.
Right.
That and zombies. Holy moly, I've made some